Okay, so today is Saturday, November 1st, 2025. I'm JJNW, that's JJNW. It's my initials as a word. I have a lot of friends who call me that. It's the channel name JJNW'S Ghost is based off of Halloween joke several years ago. And as an author, I go by JJN Whitley, and I published a book today. It's the one you can see there in the thumbnail, the Orichalcum Crown, featuring Isabella the All-Mother on the cover. Orcal, as I will frequently refer to it as, it's just how I tend to abbreviate Orichalcum. It just works for me. But Orcal is a story about an adopted princess and her exiled older sister working together to stop an assassination attempt against their father, the Emperor of the Countess Empire. As you can probably guess from that description, Orcal is a fantasy series. In terms of the subgenre, I primarily classify it as a high fantasy due to the presence of the old gods and the magic, and also as a dark fantasy due to the monsters and just like the monsters, the violence, and just the moral ambiguity you get throughout the book and as the series as a whole. We'll get to a bit more of the series as we go. Thematically, Orcal to me is first and foremost a story about the weight of leadership, with the story even noting the crown itself is made out of a very dense material to enforce that fact. Members of the royal family make a lot of decisions in their personal and political lives, often at the exact same time, which have far-reaching and lingering consequences. And even though some of these characters are descended from gods, they're still mortal. They're still human. And they are prone to making mistakes. And this is a story that does not shy away from those mistakes or their consequences. I also classify Orichalcum as a coming-of-age story. Makoto, the adopted princess, seeks to discover who she is and where she belongs in a literal and metaphorical sense. She lost her memories of... Sorry, dry mouth. I should have brought some water. She lost her memories of her home and her early life, and the ones that finally start coming back aren't pleasant. These are leaving her haunted and torn between the home that she knows and the home that she's lost. And Athena, the exiled princess, knows exactly who she is, but she hates it. Her style of problem solving usually involves punching, drinking/smoking, or leaving people behind that she thinks are better off without her, whether those people agree with her or not. Her results are mixed, but she is trying to be better. And a similar theme to that, which I did mention with Makoto as well, is a feeling of belonging or conversely, feeling like an outcast, which I think works and fits the story in a really meta sense. I often refer to Orcal as my personal island of misfit toys because most of the main cast, including Athena and Makoto, come from other ideas that I had played around for a bit, maybe even started writing, but ultimately kind of fizzled out and didn't go anywhere, leaving these characters, without a place to belong, and somehow they all just kind of congregated here, and I'm really happy that they did. So getting back to something I mentioned earlier about it being a series, the tentative plan is that it will be a 4-book series. As I start writing the other books, that might change. It might get condensed into maybe 3 books. It might get expanded. And I'm like, okay, I think there's enough material here for a 5th. I will split it like that. But tentatively, I am planning to go with 4. Excuse me. I would estimate maybe about half or so of the second book has been written. What has been written does need to be substantially edited. This is a first draft with another 50% or so needing to be drafted in the first place. So as for content warnings, just going spoiler free, and I should specify this is only regarding the first book, not the series as a whole. Mild profanity, no F-bombs or anything stronger than that. No explicit sex, but it is something that is discussed and implied pretty frequently. One recurring character works at a brothel owned by the gods and is pretty upfront about what his job is and that he's good at it. As I was kind of saying earlier with Athena, alcohol is something that's very common. Smoking is something that is very common. Other drug use, not as common. I believe it's used maybe once or twice in the book, but smoking and alcohol are very common. I think in almost every one of Athena's chapters, she's doing at least one of those things. While there aren't many action scenes, there are moments of intense violence and gore. One reviewer referred to the climax as grisly, and I read that and thought, yeah, that's a pretty apt word for it. But I would say, aside from the climax, the violence in the rest of the book can be bloody, but it's generally not very gory. And in terms of other trigger warnings, aside from that aforementioned violence, child abuse and neglect do play a major role in several characters' stories. And I don't know if I would quite classify this as self-harm, because Athena doesn't do anything physical to herself. But the way she often talks about herself in casual dialogue or in her own monologues, or like her monologue, in her thoughts, she's not exactly kind to herself. So I feel like I should at least put that out there. If you are interested, the ebook can be found on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble. There's other places as well. I've included all the current links in the description. I'm going to try to look into some other places. I was trying to get it onto Apple, and the verification hoops I had to jump through got cleared pretty late. So I'm hoping I can get it on that platform relatively soon. We'll see what happens. Currently, Orichalcum is only available as an ebook. But if there seems to be a high enough demand, I will see what I can do about trying to make print copies available as well. And that's pretty much it. I hope to welcome you to Kaunaeus, and that you enjoy your stay, and that you stick around for the rest of the story and some of the other projects that I'm working on that are outside of this setting. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.